Good morning, students. Our today's topic in the subject of Islamiyat O levels is the use of Hadith in legal thinking. So now we will discuss different legal thinkings in which Hadith is applied. If this question come in the paper, to get A grade, you have to describe in detail the status of the Hadith in legal thinking. Establish their link with the Quran in good details and support your answer with examples and quotes, both from Quran and Hadith. Also show the relation between the Hadith and Ijma as well as Hadith and Qiyas. So different examples are required and related quotes from the Quran and Hadith are required. So now look. First example which we are taking is zakat as a legal thinking in which hadith will be applied. So look now, ahadith of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam constitute basis of Islamic legal thinking together with the Quran. Both Quran and hadith collectively are called the primary or main sources of legal thinking. The Quran therefore mentions the two sources together at many places. For example, O you who believe, obey God and obey the messenger. Here, obeying God means following the Quranic guidance, whereas obeying the messenger implies following the Sunnah or Hadith of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Hadith primarily elaborate and explain the Quranic teachings. In some cases, it supplements the injunction contained in the Quran. There are many examples that can be cited in this regard. The Quran repeatedly commands to pay zakat by saying and establish regular prayer and pay the charity tax zakat. And other verse of the Quran and list all the 8 categories those entitled to receive zakat. Alms are for the poor and the needy and for the wayfarer. It, however, does not provide the details about the limit of one's possessions or assets on which they are required to pay zakat. So look, now we have taken the example of zakat. And first we have quoted some sayings from the Quran, and now we are going to quote the Hadith. So look now. It, however, does not provide the details about the limits of one's possessions or assets on which they are required to pay zakat. Also, there are no details about the rate, that is called nisab, or percentage of earnings, assets at which it should be paid. Hadith of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam provide all these details. For example, this hadith. So it means hadith or Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam actually explained the Quran. Abu Sa'id Khudri narrated that the Messenger of God said, "No charity tax is due on property mounting to less than 5 ukiya." Sahih al-Bukhari, book 24, the book of the zakat. And no charity tax is due on fewer than 5 camels. And there is no charity tax on fewer than 5 wasq. Sahih al-Bukhari. So now we are going to take another example, that is marriage. First we will quote different sayings from the Quran, and then Hadith will explain the Quran. So look now. Hazrat Aisha Raziyallahu Anha reported God's messenger as saying, "Make this marriage publicly known, solemnize it in the mosque and play tambourines in honor of it." Jami' Tirmizi. Here is another example that is taken as the legal thinking, that is Jawar. Habiba Raziyallahu Anha said she was married to Ubaidullah bin Jash, who died in Abyssinia. So the negus married her to Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam giving her on his behalf a dower of 4,000. A virgin has 4,000 dirhams. He sent her to God's messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam with Shurabil bin Hassana raziyallahu anha. Sunane Abu Dawud and Nasai. Another example is wedding feast. Anas raziyallahu anha said that Allah's messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam set Safiya raziyallahu anha free and married her, making her freedom her dower. And he held a wedding feast for her with his, a dish made of dates mixed with clarified butter and dried curd, kneaded and rubbed together. Sometimes flour was added, agreed upon. And other legal aspect is taken as divorce. Shauban Raziyallahu anha reported Allah's Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam as saying, if any woman asks her husband for divorce without some strong reasons, the door of the paradise will be forbidden to her. So look at the different legal aspects in which hadith is applied. Hadith is explaining different legal matters. Reported the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, the lawful thing which God hates most is divorce. Now the next aspect which we are going to discuss is forbidden business transactions. Ibn Umar Raziyallahu anha reported Allah's Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam as saying, Allah has cursed wine, its drinker, its server, its seller, its buyer, its presser, the one for whom it is pressed, the one who conveys it, and the one to whom it is conveyed. Next legal matter which we are going to discuss is usury. Regarding the practice of the usury, that is also called riba, the Quran forbids it at different places and warns in a strict tone those who charge usury on the loan. But God has permitted trade and forbidden usury. God will deprive usury of all blessings. So if you are looking, different legal matters are discussed and hadith is explaining these kind of the legal matters. These and other verses do not provide exact definition and modes of the usury interest. The Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam's hadith illustrate these commands in details. We asked God's messenger about money exchange. He replied, if it is from hand to hand, there is no harm in it. Otherwise, it is not permissible. And other hadith says, the bartering of gold for gold is usury, except it is from hand to hand and equal in amount. So it means no extra charging is allowed. These hadith refers to a primitive mode of usury when wicked traders used to exchange goods at an inflated price so that their trade partners incurred deficit. Jabir Raziyallahu anhu said that Allah's Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam cursed the one who accepted usury, the one who paid it, the one who recorded it, and the two witnesses to it, saying they were all alike. Next legal matter which we are going to discuss is theft. Abu Salama Raziyallahu anha quoted on Abu Huraira's authority to the effect that Allah's Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam said regarding a thief, if he steals, cut off his hand. If he steals again, cut off his foot. If he steals again, cut off his hand. And if he steals again, cut off his foot. So this is the explanation from the hadith about this legal aspect. Unlawful food. Ibn Umar Raziyallahu anha told that Allah's Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam prohibited eating the animal which feeds on filth or drinking its milk. For example, any animal which is actually feeding on filth, the flesh or the drink of that animal is prohibited for Muslims. So this is the explanation, students. Next legal aspect which we are going to discuss is blood weight. Abu Bakr Raziallahu anhu bin Muhammad bin Amr bin Hazm, on his father's authority, said his grandfather told that God's Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam wrote to the people of the Yemen, and that his letter contained the following: if anyone kills a believer wrongfully, he must suffer retaliation for what his hand has done, unless the relatives of the one who is killed are willing to do otherwise. It also said that a man may be killed in retaliation for a woman, that the blood weight for a life is 100 camels, that those who have gold should pay 1,000 dinar, that for the complete cutting off a nose, the blood weight of 100 camel must be paid, that full blood weight must be paid for the teeth, the lips, the testicles, the penis, the backbone, and the eye, that for 1 foot, half the blood weight must be paid, for a wound in the head, a third of the blood weight, for a thrust which penetrates the body, a third of the blood weight, for a head wound which removes a bone, 15 camels, for each finger and toe, 10 camels, and for tooth, 5 camels. So these are the explanations as far as Islam is concerned. So Hadith is explaining blood weight. Hadith of the Prophet ﷺ have been employed by legal experts to support the secondary sources of the Islamic law, ijma, that is called consensus, and qiyas or analogical deduction. The Prophet ﷺ told his followers to work together. Accordingly, his successors resolved various issues by ijma, consensus, because Prophet ﷺ has told to his followers to work together. So the successors work together, that is called ijma. For example, compilation of the Quran during the Abu Bakr's caliphate was a decision reached by ijma. Similarly, election of the Abu Bakr to be the first caliph by the Prophet ﷺ's companion was an example of the qiyas. They thought if Abu Bakr could be appointed as caliph to lead the Muslim community, this was done on the basis of the qiyas by finding eligibility of the Abu Bakr to lead the Muslims. Because in the last days of Holy Prophet ﷺ, Prophet ﷺ asked Abu Bakr to lead the prayers. So from that thing, the companions took a qiyas that Abu Bakr should be appointed as a caliph because he is able to lead the Muslims. So this was the topic, students. Read this lecture again very carefully. Make your notes, learn it. This is important topic as far as your papers are concerned. Thank you so much.